I speak to Shahram Akbarzadeh, who is in Melbourne, Australia, Professor of Middle East Politics at Deakin University. Professor, thank you so much for your time. The Israelis say they're facing an existential threat from Iran, but when you look at it from Iran's point of view, is this the most danger faced by the revolution since the Islamic Revolution in the 70s?
Well, thanks for having me. Definitely, I think this is the first time after the Iran-Iraq war where Iranian territory has been hit by a foreign power in so many different locations. So this has been quite devastating for the Iranian regime and also quite shocking for the Iranian population, who have not witnessed any conflict of this magnitude for decades. The issue right now is that what is it going to do to the Iranian nuclear program? And my thinking is very little. I may be controversial here, but the damage that Israel is inflicting on Iran is superficial. Iran will have the capacity to recover from the damage, especially a lot of the Iranian facilities and uranium enrichment is deep underground, and that Israel cannot reach and destroy. So Israel is gaining a tactical victory here by hurting Iran, but in the long run, Iran retains its nuclear capabilities, but also becoming more resolute in the fact that they need to build a nuclear bomb to defend themselves. So this is quite counterproductive for Israel.
So therefore, two issues there. Does that mean that Israel may continue these sorts of attacks over the course of months and maybe years, periodically trying to diminish that ability of Tehran to develop a nuclear weapon? And then the continuing issue would be whether you think that actually it will speed up Iran's efforts, because it will think, if we had a nuclear weapon, we wouldn't have been attacked like this.
Absolutely. I think you're right on both counts. This is putting us on a trajectory of perpetual conflict, because Israel will feel obligated to hit Iranian nuclear facilities on a regular basis to stop them and prevent them from acquiring the nuclear bomb. And Iranians would feel the urgency of acquiring the bomb and producing even more underground facilities to push in that direction.
When you look at the bigger picture of what the far-right coalition in the Israeli administration is doing, this idea of possibly trying to restructure the entire security status quo in the Middle East by attacking different parts of the Middle East whether they're Iranian proxies or whether they have their own agency or not, Hezbollah, the Houthis in Yemen, those groups that are allied to Iran in Syria and Iraq. I mean, how do you see this progressing? Because that would just be an almost unimaginable challenge for one country, namely Israel, to undertake such an operation, which it seems to be doing.
Well, Israel claims that the Arab world is against it and that it is fighting an existential battle to keep Israel alive. In reality, Israel is creating enemies, more and more enemies in the region, by targeting different actors within, in its neighborhood. Israel had an opportunity to normalize relations with its neighbors, had an opportunity to pursue a two-state solution with the Palestinians and really address some of the deep grievances that the Palestinians have, and Arab population has, and the Muslim population has in relation to Israel. It has failed to take that diplomatic route. Instead, it has taken a very aggressive and offensive route in relation to its neighbors and various actors in the region. And I think this is putting us on a course of perpetual conflict.
Do you see these Israeli attacks as possibly because Benjamin Netanyahu is telling the Iranian people, please rise up against your government? Do you see these Israeli attacks as trying to make space for those anti-government protests to come back onto the streets? Or would Iran actually be coalescing at this time, and even its opponents inside the country saying, hold on, we're as a nation being threatened, so let's put our own interests behind the national ones?
Well, we know for a fact that there is a big divide between the Iranian population and the ruling regime. We saw that in 2022 in the Women Life Freedom movement, where demonstrators were calling out for the downfall of the dictator, the supreme leader. And that movement went on for more than a year until it was suppressed. We see that women in Iran are openly challenging the mandatory hijab rule. We see that the Iranian population just does not want to engage with the ruling regime by not showing up to ballot boxes at presidential election. The last presidential election, the last two presidential elections, had less than 50% participation rate. All of these indicate that there is a major divide between the population and the regime. And I think Israel is trying to bank on that and use that divide to effectively achieve regime change. The problem with this scenario is that the Iranian population is also very nationalist. And any external aggression by Israel or by the United States is simply going to really galvanize the population behind the regime, because they don't want to see external player removing their system of government. That's not acceptable.
Professor Shahram Akbarzadeh, really interesting to hear your thoughts. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.